See, my uncles also operate grocery stores, liquor stores, mini marts, and so on. That whole generation followed a pretty simple formula. You put your heads down, make your money, send your kids to good schools. See, what that actually meant was put your heads down and don't think about why this formula works out for you but doesn't always work out for everyone else. Why liquor stores like yours are on every corner, but fresh produce and after-school programs are pretty hard to come by. And definitely don't consider a centuries-long history in this nation that includes slavery, legalized segregation, a made-up war on drugs, criminalization of black and brown bodies, immunity for police officers when they commit crimes, and that's just to name a few.
Like it wasn't just this evil demonic force that came up from the pits of and all of a sudden no one knew what to do. I think one of the most ironic things about the way that American exceptionalism tells a story of itself is how there was always these forces that were fought against in order for America to reign true. But those forces that were fought against, other than the British Empire, those forces fought against were natives. Those forces fought against were slave rebellions. Those forces fought against were, the civil rights movement. People like Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, them being driven to a point of assassination. Leaders within certain types of communities who were able to organize being strategically shut down. The United States indeed has always fought against basically the revolt for freedom.
And in the meantime, we got all our music, culture, fashion, sports heroes from a community of people without ever having to reckon with the fact that we have been complicit in the violence against their very existence all along.
I mean, the way this country was founded basically was on the speculation of land that was taken through war from natives, and then that land was worked through entrepreneurs of the time who were slave owners who would come in and work the land, make a profit, and thus the United States expanded ever westward in the South and so on and so forth.
We kept our heads down, now the joke's on us. We abandoned our homelands and everything we knew to escape poverty, to escape violent conditions, to escape systemic oppression. And this whole time, we remained silent while we watched those very same things happen to a group of people who are just slightly different from ourselves.
That's why, again, it's always funny, even when they talk about the Civil War, how the right wing will try to say things like, we fought to end slavery. Like, yeah, a war was fought against a country that seceded from the United States because they wanted to keep the institution of slavery intact so bad. Like it wasn't just this evil demonic force that came up from the pits of all of a sudden no one knew what to do and they had no choice. In fact, the Washington Post, they recently put out a very in-depth article that showed that 1,700 Congress people at one time were slave owners. Because again, slavery was the engine of the United States. It's what kept the colonies glued together because it was the center of the economy. It was the automation of the day. It was free labor. You didn't have to pay them. You know what I'm saying? So people were cashing out, speculating on the land, working and cashing out like we just went over. But again, it's always funny to talk about slavery as if it was something that was fought against and the United States prevailed above it. No, the United States was made off of slavery and eventually a war was fought and it ended. But that's the United States.
We no longer have time to keep our heads down. Not now, not ever again. Listen to and learn from Black voices. Donate your time and your money to Black-led organizations and Black causes. Learn and vote in your federal and local elections.
So while much of the rest of the world continues to innovate and bring us further into the future, whether that be through technology or just the way socioeconomic systems can function as a whole, while China's literally rewriting the trade structure of the planet, we're going backwards 50 plus years, possibly having to deal with women not having access to abortion and an increased surveillance system in order to enforce that because abortions won't go away. But they're going to have to enforce it some type of way. So it'll be just like 50 years ago, except with modern day technology because, the Republican Party, they just love their freedom. We're dealing with getting our voting rights taken away. And then we're dealing with the Democratic Party who can't even get a minuscule infrastructure bill passed. I mean, that's the reality of the United States. We have 25% of the world's prisoner population, most of those being Blacks and Latinos who live in communities impacted by neglect from the federal government and from local governments. from corruption all around. So I thought this was a really brilliantly made video, but just, just more fodder and more ammunition for us to really, really show up to the polls, because we have to get better Democrats in office because our time's running out.